So, hello everybody. So I'm here to tell you my recipe for elderflower cordial. So just before we begin, this recipe calls for a certain amount of flower heads. So obviously flower heads, well, nobody told the tree they had to be a certain size. So this is what we'd class as an average size flower head. Now they can be smaller and bigger than that, but that's it. It's, well, maybe my hand size. Roughly it's a little bit bigger than your palm. So that's about flower size, okay? So these ones then are that bit in smaller than that. So then I'd put them together and that would be roughly about the same size, okay? So you get what I'm saying. There's no point going out with a ruler trying to find what the flower size is because you won't find it. So you're looking maybe not the massive one, but somewhere in between. That's your average size flower size. So you're going to take 40 or 50 of these. And what you need is a container of some description. So actually what I have used in the past was a lidded bucket. I think it was a 10 litre, and I layered them in that way. But what I used the other day was actually what I just used to pick them in, which is an open-ended, open-sided, no lid attached laundry. What we use as a laundry basket. It's one of those, those squashy what are those? That brand called? And they got two handles on it. So I just used that and I covered it over with a towel. So the covering over is merely to keep bugs off it, because you're going to have a little bit of sugar, and that will obviously, in this time of the year, you might have noted there's more of them around in your kitchen and near any little puddle of jam that you have. So you're going to use somewhere between the region of 40 to 50 flower heads. Now, out of that quantity that I collected and that quantity that I made about 7 litres of cordial. So it's quite a savage amount that you get out of it. So you need your flower heads. You need regular sugar. This is just regular granulated sugar, okay? Lemons, thinly sliced, okay? And, they don't have to be perfection. So, and you need boiling water. So what you do, so I've made, as I said, about 7 litres of it. So I don't have a whole, I didn't harvest any more elderflowers for this. But there's actually an elderflower tree growing across the road from us, but there are cars that pass by on our road. It's not heavily trafficked, but I never usually pick beside the road. You'll see, I remember driving up around Meath. Oh my God, the elderflowers on the side of the road. It's just, there was nearly avenues of them, but I'd never pick them beside the road because trucks and all that drive past. Pick somewhere, like anything else you'd forage, even though they're up high on a tree. Pick, far enough away from a road, even, good few feet back might be enough. I tend to pick within range that I can pick. I might use a long handled lobbers to get ones that are a wee bit higher. They're not thorny or anything like that, but it's a little bit sinewy, so you need something to cut them with. Even snips, shears, garden shears, or a hedge clippers can be a great one as well, and they can help you to reach up a little bit high. I don't over harvest. I don't pick way up at the top of the tree. I leave the ones out of my reach. I don't bring a ladder or anything with me, or a cherry picker or anything. I leave those ones to go into the elderberries, and then potentially they're for the birds. I mean, you never pick them all anyway. Well, I'd hope you wouldn't be that industrious that you go picking them all. So it's nice to leave some, I think. And plus, if you want to pick elderberries later in the year, you don't want to pick them all either. So we had gone to a friend's house, an old lady who's cocooning, and we brought down some groceries to her. And it turned out, she said to me, just in passing conversation, I said we were going off to forage. She said, oh, I have one of those trees at the back of my garden. You're welcome to the flowers if they're there. So walked down, lo and behold, we didn't have to go anywhere else. And you don't need an awful lot. So 40 to 50 flower heads, you'd have quite a considerable amount in a bucket. So to demo it so you can see it, because your bucket doesn't have to be clear, and it can be, a black handle bucket, so long as it's clean, well cleaned out. You don't have to go and buy any specialist equipment. As I say, we use the laundry thing. Just make sure that you've got, even if it's without a lid, that you can cover it easily enough that something doesn't fall into the centre of it on you. But what I'm going to demo in is these very fancy, my sister bought me these gin glasses. Now, they do look great, but in our house, something with a stem on never lasts very long. So just for the purposes so you can see through, but you do not have to use something that is clear, okay? So you're literally going to take your flower heads. Now, if you wash those too much, what you'll find is there's just a little brownie bit there. I'm going to pick that off. But when you've picked them a little bit, you might have the odd bug or two. perfectly natural. So you can just go through them as you go. But if you go washing them, what you're going to do is you're going to wash off a considerable amount of the pollen, and you're going to wash off a considerable amount of what the extraction of the elderflowers is. So I wouldn't go too mad on washing. The boiling water that you pour over these will wash them for you. Okay, and then you're going to strain them anyway. So you're going to put the flower heads in like so. So as I say, this is only for demo purposes. So you're going to squeeze that in. You're going to pop over your lemon. So imagine if you had an area that was 10 times as big as this or whatever. So you're going to sprinkle that and fill one layer. So a bit like if you think of making a lasagna. So you're going to make it in layers. And then you're going to simply take the sugar and sprinkle that over the top. Okay, so that's your three out of the 4. Then you're going to take your next flower head. I don't know what I did with the other bit. Oh, I don't know what I did with it there. Anyway, so you're going to take your next flower. Then you're going to layer another lemon. And you're going to sprinkle a little bit of sugar. Now the sugar doesn't have to sit on the lemon. I'm just, again, for demo purposes. So you're doing it in layers. That's basically it. Now, when you've fully done used all your flowers, and if you think, oh my God, I've got way too much sugar, you can just put it in and you can stir it up a little bit. And then you're going to merely just pour over your water. So this was boiled. There's a little bit of steam, but I didn't really, and it's cooled down because I didn't really trust this glass maybe with boiling water. So I'm using very clean fingers, but if this was boiling water, I'd suggest you use some kind of wooden spoon or a serving spatula or something like that. And you're just pushing them down. Okay, so that's what it would look like if you could see through your container. And then you're merely just going to take any kind of bit of cloth. I have a tea towel here, which was not prepped and folded. And when it's cooled down a little bit, because you don't want too much condensation in there, let it cool a little bit. And you're just merely going to cover that up and leave it for 24 hours. And that is it. And the next day, or 24 hours later, you can take this off. You could stir it maybe a couple of times if you wanted to, just to make sure that it's all mixing through, but you don't have to. Take your lid off, or your cloth off, strain it through a strainer, like a fine mesh one now, because there may be little bits of stuff going on in there that you don't want to come out. And then you just have some bottles ready to bottle it in. So that's the basics of it. So I'll just show you what I had done. Is I had kept a couple of plasticky bottles, and I'm not a mad fan of drinking out of plastic. We do like sparkling water in our house. This is actually elderflower cordial is gorgeous with sparkling water. It's lovely with water anyway, but it's lovely with sparkling water. And what I do is I hang on to a few that maybe we've got going and leave a gap at the top. So you can put these then into your freezer. So it's a great way to keep them, particularly like 7 litres of this stuff in your fridge takes up a lot of space. So because when it freezes, it expands a little bit, so you need that little bit of gap. So what I do then is oftentimes I have, 1 or 2 of these bottles, and I'll make another batch of it later, another couple of weeks time. So before the summer is over, maybe my last harvest of elderflowers, that would be the bottles that I would put in the freezer. And I would take them out come winter time. And you have that lovely smell of summer in wintertime in sparkling water, a glass of water. And I really like it as a mixer with the gin and tonic. But, if you don't, obviously children don't have gin. Another thing you can do with elderflower cordial actually is make lolly sticks. So you're mixing it with water, the same thing, and putting in your stick, and you have it's really refreshing and ice cold. So then the other thing that I have done as well over the years is, as I showed you the slice of lemons, I keep the lemon slices and I freeze them. So they have little bits of flowers on them. They're flowers now, not bugs, okay? So I put them into a glass, pour over my water, have a drop of cordial in it. And these obviously cool down your glass, but they also give it a flavour. And again, depending on how many harvests I do of elderflowers, I'd have these sometimes through the winter. And I'd add them to a glass. And oh my God, it's like smelling summer. You can smell the elderflower off the lemons. So it's just, I really like to go, what would I use those for? Because it seems quite wasteful. They do certainly add to the elderflower, and they help preserve it a little bit. Now, if you want to, if say you're making, let's say 7 litres, and you want to keep it and you just want to keep it in your fridge, to keep it, it will keep in your fridge for some time, but it won't keep indefinitely. You can add citric or tartic acid to it. I personally don't, because I find I can taste it a little bit, and I don't like the taste of it. But then there's a friend of mine I was talking to the other day, and he was saying, "Oh, I really like the taste of citric acid in it." So if you add citric acid into it, you add it after you've filtered it, and when you're bottling it, and it will help it to last a lot longer. It's really a personal thing. I mean, absolutely try both. I know I bought citric acid in a brewery place, in like a wine brewing shop in Galway. I used to make a lot of wine years ago. I haven't made any for a while actually. Might try some with the elderflowers. So anyway, and I think you can get it in a couple of different places. Don't quote me on that now, because I don't. Yeah, definitely you can find it online for definite. You may find it in supermarkets, and you might even find it in health food shops. I wouldn't be 100% sure, but because I don't use it, it's just for personal reasons. But absolutely, give it a go and see which you like and what you prefer. And then, of course, I have made elderflower champagne, and I have made elderflower wine. I have made the wine from it, but it was a number of years ago, and it was lovely. But it's one of those, you must drink it in the year that you make it. I left mine, and it was very, very syrupy. It didn't stop me partaking of it, but I found it syrupy. And it was nice mixed with a sparkling water. Maybe I've got a thing for sparkling water. So that's the basics of elderflower cordial. I would suggest, if you've never made it before, pick whatever amount you want. I'll put up the recipe later, and you just mix and match whatever you find, use that. I mean, I'm going to leave this one, and I'm going to leave it for 24 hours, and that'll be elderflower cordial. I mean, it's not a whole amount, but that's 2 flower heads. So that's how much you get out of flower. It's quite a significant amount. I don't know how much water I put in there. It's just under a litre. So yeah, gosh, imagine if you had a gin in there, lads. Ooh, nice. So yeah, give it a go. They're absolutely out in abundance. Just, yeah, be mindful where you pick them, I suppose, and don't blame me if a farmer doesn't like it. I found a couple of places that I go to year in, year out. Bar this friend's garden. I didn't know she had a tree in the bottom of her garden. And I know that where they are, it's easy enough for me to get to, and there's not a whole pile of traffic goes past there at all, or anywhere, and definitely nowhere near where the trees are. So usually they might be, the far end of a field, or a little bit maybe off the beaten track. Just, yeah, don't probably pick them where there's a lot of traffic, because obviously they'll be covered in fumes and whatnot. So yeah, have a go with it and see how you get on. I don't think it's particularly tricky. I know one lady said that her elderflower cordial had, I think she said, turned to creamy mush or something. So yeah, I don't know quite what you were using, or how you were making it, or what your recipe was. I have used this recipe for somewhere like 15 years, I think. I used to overthink it a little bit, counting them all out but now I'm quite loose with it. I have a rough idea that, oh yeah, that's what 10 looks like, so that's roughly what 50 looks like, that kind of idea. And then I'm just, layering it like a lasagna, and go mad and have fun, and let me know how you get on. I wouldn't pick them either in the height of the day, when the sun has been on them for a while. Pick them either in the morning or in the evening, because they won't have, evaporated quite so much. You'd have a bit more in them as such. Okay, and just watch out for the bees and the wasps, maybe, because they quite like them too, because they're sweet. All right. Yeah, so have fun, and I hope this is helpful to somebody out there. All right, enjoy. Bye, and thank you.